You know, they say if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Whoever said that was lying. The investment or the juice that I was going to get out of it wasn't worth the squeeze. Antonio, do you want to squeeze something? Gentlemen, welcome back to the Failing to Freedom channel. It's your boy, Alpha M and RMRS, Antonio Centeno, my life partner and soulmate in this incredible channel. And the reason why I feel like my life got better and richer and having better friends in it was because you were kind enough to reach out to me and say, hey, let's get together. I'm like, F you, I don't want to. And then I decided, let's take a chance and do something that scares me. And from there, they say it is history. Anyway, today I want to talk about something, Antonio. Kevin O'Leary, my boy from Shark Tank. I was on Shark Tank twice. Not an easy task, one of 3 or 4 that have done it. Anyway, he says, if something hasn't worked in 3 years, you got to take that business out behind the barn and shoot the bleeding dog, because the worst thing to waste is your precious time. Today, I want to talk a little bit about that, Antonio, because you and I both have failed. We have also shut businesses down and decided to take the L or just the walk away, whatever we want to call it, because it wasn't right for whatever reason. And failure doesn't always mean that you are bankrupt. It doesn't always mean that you are, that the building's burning and everything is going bad. For me, I walked away from a business that was doing $2 million in sales, my sunglass company, Enemy. And to most people, they would think, wait a second, $2 million? That's a crazy amount of money. But it wasn't what I needed, and it wasn't the right direction for me to keep investing, because that's the thing that you've got to consider and remember, is that your time is your most valuable asset. And we all are choosing how we invest that time. If you invest yours just surfing the internet, looking at naughty stuff and doing whatever you need to do, right? Is that the most productive way? Now, you can invest a little time there. I'm not judging either, but you've got to consider how you're investing this time. And so is it worth it? And so, Antonio, do you have a story or something you could share with the time that you decided to say, deuces, this is working, but it's not working well enough, and I'm out of here?
Yeah, most recently. I mean, we just broke up with, I say broke up, but it's what it felt like. Claire was an amazing person. It's just we didn't work out as business partners. We had different visions. The company,
what was the business, Antonio?
Vitamin, based out of Australia. Claire had built this company up, I think, for 19 years before I met her. And she didn't really have any online distribution. So this
what type of business, Antonio? Sorry, we got to cover the basic. Men's grooming.
So
selling
it was not, hair products, skincare products, all types of things like that. Very similar. I know, Aaron, you've got businesses like this, and I saw what you were doing, and I was like, this is a great opportunity. It's established products. I loved, and I to this day still love the products. They're great products, and everything can be aligned, except you can just find out that you and your business partner have different long-term visions. And you can do all the work. You can think you're going into this eyes wide open, and both of us did. We set it up very, I think, correctly. We did not have a 50-50 split. We had a 45-45 and 10. And there was a silent business partner who we both respected, who actually brought us together whenever we did have to break up ways. And we had very amicable, very friendly, splitting ways. But it was after 3 years. It wasn't, in my opinion, growing the way I would like to see. And she had opportunities going wholesale, which were separate from me. And it was just something you realized, this wasn't going to be able to continue. So similar to you, Aaron, it's not like we were going into bankruptcy. It's not like we were having, it just wasn't going in. And it was the time. I realized I was now putting more and more time into something that I long-term viewed as like, this could succeed if I gave it another 5 years. But that 5 years is not worth it to me because I have other areas I could be focused. I know for you, Aaron,
success. Well, that's the other thing that is interesting. I think before you decide to walk away from anything, this goes for you guys out there watching, or yourself, Antonio, or even me, is you've got to first qualify what success looks like. If it takes you 4 years to develop a business and build a business, and that's what it takes, and you're seeing progress and you're enjoying it, even though it's hard. And that's the other thing you've got to understand. You know, they say if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Whoever said that was lying, because regardless of if you love it or not, it's still hard and it's still work. It's some work is more enjoyable than others. Like I would hate going into an office every day. Like that would suck, even if I was getting paid a lot. But you've got to figure out this investment that you're making, AKA your time, in this thing that you're doing or building. What does success look like? And it's not just this overarching like North Star, like if it makes $10 million, that's successful. You've got to along the way be honest with what's happening. Is it working? Are your efforts and your investment, are they seeing a return? And that return can be money, but it could be progress. It could be growth from the top line or bottom line or whatever it may be. And are you enjoying it? Can you see yourself doing this for another 6 months, a year, or whatever? And so that's the thing that you've just got to be honest with yourself is, what does success actually look like for this endeavor for me? Is it worth investing? And so for me, my sunglass company, I did that for 3.5 years. And it was something that I was really excited about. I went all in. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I made a bunch of mistakes along the way. Now, looking back, hindsight is obviously 2020. It was one of those things where it just wasn't working, and there wasn't a way for me that I could see in the near future for me to really turn it around and make it a profitable business that was at least as successful as some of my other projects that I had. And so it was one of those things where I just had to come to the realization that, all right, even though this business is cool, even though I like it because I did it and I started it, it's just not worth me investing this most precious asset and valuable resource, my time, into it for another 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. My time is going to be best suited or better invested in these other things that I was doing. And I've got other stories like this. The Fashion Anchor, another one where, I thought, okay, this business is doing about $100,000 a year, which is not an insignificant amount of money. But how much time and energy do I need to invest in this in order to make it more successful? Ollie, teeth whitening strips, another story where I was doing it and it just wasn't going to move the needle for me. And I knew that the investment or the juice that I was going to get out of it wasn't worth the squeeze. Antonio, do you want to squeeze something? You pervert. Yes. See, I threw you for a second.
No, I was just thinking with Ollie. That's actually having a resurgence. The toothpaste.
Oh yeah.
Eric over at Brio acquired Ollie, and he's done some great things with him. So and that's the thing is, it may not be the right time for you. Maybe you're not the right person for it. I think with these failures, you are not defined by failure as long as you don't let it define you. As long as you pick yourself up, it just knocked you down, or maybe it knocked the wind out of you, or maybe it just simply hurt. But you pick yourself up. And you move on to the next project, because watching you, Aaron, get into things and be able to free up that time so that you can double down on the wins over at Pete and Pedro or some other projects that you had going on. That's really what it is, as you've said, recovering the time, which is, I think, a difficult concept for people early on because they don't maybe value their time as much. They're like, I've just got to get something. Like I would love to have a $2 million a year business. You say that, but that doesn't mean it's $2 million profit. And as you know, with e-commerce, one of the things that I know you're running into right now, Aaron, is e-commerce. E-com grows. You put more and more money into inventory, into it. It just becomes a cash. Like you got to be throwing money into this thing. So you knew what was up and coming, and you're like, hey, I just don't want to deal with these headaches. I'd rather free up the energy and the time.
Something else real quick before we wrap this one up. Sometimes things will surprise you. Maybe it's just not the right time. Perfect example of that is another one of my failures, and that is the Stubble Buddy. The Stubble Buddy was this little vacuum that I thought, man, this is going to be a monster product. And if I just have a website, if I just do some videos, if I just figure out like a good creative fun ad, I can dump money at it, and this thing is going to blow up. Lots of problems with it. I ended up shutting down the website, and ultimately I was selling it still on my Pete and Pedro website, but it really wasn't something I thought about. It was just like this weird little product that I have. But then TikTok happened, and the video, I sent this to somebody and it ended up going viral. We just now sold out of, we had 15,000 units that we had ordered because we saw the opportunity. We just sold out of 15,000 units for the Stubble Buddy. And now my bigger problem is, shit, how do I get more of these things? And so I basically generated $500,000 in the past 6 weeks from this little stupid vacuum that I shut down years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I started, I'm like, I'm not wasting any more time or energy trying to figure this out. Boom, I shut it down. And then the timing was right on a different platform and it went crazy. So sometimes things work out. Most of the times they don't work out like that. But if you keep your head up, you keep your eyes open, and you just keep moving forward and throwing shit against the wall, something eventually will stick.
And you said you shut it down, but you really didn't. Like you kept going. You didn't make any, this wasn't a fatal failure.
No.
This was something, it was there. And yeah, and then it hit. And
the one thing real quick before because this is a big topic, but I just want to real quick mention one of the reasons why it is so hard to know when it's time to shut down. And I guess, Antonio, that would be kind of one of my last questions for this topic is, when do you know? Like, when is your sign that it's time to, okay, end this? One of the reasons why is that we like to lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that something's working because it's too hard to admit when something that we've been trying or an effort that we've been putting into something didn't work out or it's not working out. The other thing is it's embarrassing. For me, it's embarrassing to say, hey, because when you're an entrepreneur, when you're starting something, you're all about telling everybody like, hey, I'm starting this business. Hey, I'm doing this. And aren't you excited? And oh, it's going to be great, right? Well, then it's kind of tough. And it's an ego thing, right? Your ego will get you in trouble a lot of times. If you are somebody that is like, you know what, this isn't working, but I'm too proud and my ego is going to be bruised if I actually acknowledge, okay, I've got to stop. I've got to walk away. But for me, what I think of when I see people that decide or make the choice to walk away, that they're actually strong. Now, the one thing you need to understand is that you've got to be honest with whether or not you actually tried or not. Because one of the things that we see in the communities that we have, we've got the 10K Club, not to mention the White Label Empire, is people will say, it's not working after 6 weeks. Did they really give it a try? And did they put every ounce of effort or enough effort in order to make it successful? And a lot of times, if you're being completely honest with yourself, the answer is no, you didn't. But if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, I gave it my all. I tried, not for 6 weeks, not for 6 months, but I gave it a fighting effort. I gave it my best shot, and it doesn't work out or it's not working out, then you know what? Godspeed. It's time for you to shut it down and move on and look for something else. But if you're not honest with yourself, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's not the right product. Maybe you're just not that interested in it. But I can tell you this, if you think that it's going to be a straight shot to success, it's not. It's going to be hard. And there are going to be times where it's going to be, and you're going to feel like giving up and shutting it down. But the people that push through those times, a lot of times are the ones that ultimately end up figuring it out, or they figure out that it's not the right time. But you got to be honest with yourself and not just think, oh, it was supposed to be easier and it's not. And so it's the wrong idea. Is it? Or is it you not being willing to put in the effort?
two things onto that.
All right.
One thing I love about communities, and guys, if you haven't checked out, we've got a great community. We'll link to it down in the comments. But you can see what other people consider to be hard work, and it can reset. You know, you think you put in, you work out hard until you go to the gym and you see some guy in there just, I mean, tearing it up. And you're like, all right, what I thought the human body was capable of is reset. That's one of the amazing things about being on a winning sports team and part of a winning system is that you get to see excellence. You thought in high school you were part of an excellent football team, and you get to college at Alabama or Texas or, you know, USC, and you're just like, holy shit, like this is a whole other level. And then you get to the NFL and it's at a whole other level. And that's what putting yourself in these communities, in these groups, and why coaching, I think, is so important. You are exposed to what you just didn't even know. The second thing I want to address is when to quit. And the answer to this, and it's not what people want to hear, but there's no way to know. You, though, have to make the decision at some point. Kevin O'Leary said 3 years. What do you, 1,000 days? Because that's just the number that he has. I think that you need to set that number for yourself. And you guys probably know, if you're watching this, a little bit about negotiations. You've probably heard of BATNA. It's the best alternative to, what is it, a negotiated agreement. But part of setting up a BATNA is to have a time frame, or to have a place where you're just not going to go past in the negotiation. And you want to have that early on when you're making a commitment to something, to a business. You want to have your non-negotiables. When you agree to marry somebody, it's assuming that they're not going to be trying to kill you with a knife. Like, that ends up happening in a relationship. You're probably like, you know what? They've gone past my point here, and I'm gonna, even though I'm Catholic, it shouldn't happen. I want to live. I'm gonna get out of this marriage. And the same thing you need to know, hey, I got to set these boundaries in the business of how much money it's going to suck out of me, how much time it's going to suck out of me. And for every single person, this is different. But you want to set that. And you know what's funny is, you may be this close. You see that picture, we'll bring it up here, of those two guys digging, and the one guy was very close to diamonds. And the problem with this one is that, that makes it seem like if you had just kept going, you would have hit the diamonds. But the reality is, what if he had just kept going and he never hit anything? And we just don't know. And that is life. Aaron, I was telling you I think it was 2 years ago, I sold my stake in Ethereum. And I don't know if like literally within 3 hours of me selling it, it jumped 20%. Now, you could say, Antonio, you just made a bad decision. But you know what that is? That's called, in decision-making process, there is a science in this. That's called resulting. And that's where you look at the result and you say it was actually, it was a great decision for me, because I still made 3 times on my money. And at that point, I had determined I was going to be exiting a big part of my stake. I just got unlucky. And that happens because every day, again, talk to somebody that stops at a red light and they're hit from behind. Then somebody runs a red light and makes through unscathed. So who made the right decision there? Well, it's pretty obvious to us, the person that followed the rule that keeps our roads safe. But yet we had, in one case, a stupid bad result. He got hit from behind, hurt his neck, hurt his back. The other guy made it to his appointment on time. And if you look at the results and you base your decision making off of that, you can fall into the trap of resulting. The reality is, life is, you can't control everything. And you will sometimes make the right decision for you, but the results may not be what you wanted. But that's life. And you just got to live with it and know that all of us deal with, the what if, right?
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that is where we are going to wrap things up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, turn that notification bell on. Every week we're dropping new knowledge and new videos in order to help enlighten you on your path to freedom. But gentlemen, I can tell you this from experience, and so can Antonio. There is no freedom without failing. It's a part of the process. Get over it, get used to it, and pick yourself up and keep going. Peace.